Tottenham destroyed in Portugal. A 2-0 battering at the hands of Sporting Lisbon. They huffed and they puffed and the door was eventually blown down. Hugo Lloris could not save them anymore. Some brilliant saves tonight from the man, but an abysmal night away from home in the Champions League for Antonio Conte. Fossil football did not prevail tonight. We're going to delve into it in much more detail. Does Son need to be dropped? Will this football really yield trophies? Spurs losing their first game of the season as well. Are we overreacting or are we just excited? Make sure you smash the like and the share button. We're sponsored tonight by our very, very good friends at TopsKick23. Get it downloaded by clicking on that QR code right about now. Let's go. Welcome to the highlights and match reaction show for the UEFA Champions League. We are sponsored by our partners for the entire season at TopsKick23. TopsKick are the official digital collectibles app of the UEFA Champions League. TopsKick is back for the 22-23 season where you can collect and trade your favorite players from across the Champions League with football fans all around the world. The app has new packs available every week, brand new cards, original artworks, and classic top card designs. Throughout the course of this season, I want to build with you the ultimate Champions League squad with TopsKick. So get the app downloaded right now. It's available worldwide and it is free. I'm going to be playing along throughout the entire Champions League season from tonight right and through to the final, and I want to see you there. The link is available in the description below to download the TopsKick23 app. You can also scan the QR code that will be on the screen throughout the course of this stream. But make sure like buttons are being smashed. You're subscribing to the Football Terrace. Big shout out to Tops. Let's do this. What a night for Sporting Lisbon. 2-0 victors. Most people did not see that as being possible, but as the game went on, you kept on seeing those opportunities on the counter-attack. In the first half, young Marcus Edwards, formerly of Tottenham, almost with a Maradona-esque type goal, a Messi-esque type goal, and a brilliant save in the end from Hugo Lloris. And in the second half, Spurs, they did create chances, there's no doubt. They created chances. They were the better team in terms of possession. They were the better team in terms of the amount of shots on goal. I believe looking at the stats now, well, it was only 12-11 actually in terms of total shots on target, 5 each. But Spurs appeared to be the more dominant side. But there was that sting in the tail. There was that thorn in the side. And Lisbon did not go away. And 2 goals at the end end up destroying and embarrassing Tottenham in the end. A humbling night for them indeed. And I want your thoughts and I want your feelings on this result tonight, because Fossil football fouled tonight. The poor style of football from Antonio Conte did not work. And as Alexander Lacazette here says, 5 English clubs in the Europa League this year, Terry. Maybe that could happen. Maybe that could happen. Spurs look bad tonight. They're gonna be on Europa League nights. And that's embarrassing singing, but I got to do it. It's going to happen. Terry, you have brain damage. The defending from Tottenham at the end represents a lack of oxygen to the head. But thank you very much for the... I'll take that as a compliment, as you're always here. Did you watch the match, Terry? Hang on. Watch this. It sometimes scrolls too quick. Did you watch the match, Terry? On paper, you may think Spurs was dominant, but they were dominated in both halves by Sporting Lisbon, who could have scored 7 goals. That's exactly the point I'm making. They appeared to be the more dominant team. They had more of the ball. Their attack seemed to be more dangerous. And that's because it was the names of the players going forward. Richarlison, Kane, Son. But the more potent team on the night, the more crucial team on the night, the more clinical team on the night was 110% Sporting Lisbon. They deserved it hands down. I'm joined in the studio tonight by Jess and by KJ. How you both doing?
I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good. Nice to be back on camera in the studio, you know what I'm saying? What a night. What a beautiful, beautiful night. I said this, Terry. I said this on the Champions League draw. Spurs will finish 3rd, and they will be in the Europa League with us. It's just Conte plus the Spursy factor. It has to be in Europe. It's just destined for them to be 3rd. The Spurs and Conte are the only European team that can be in a Europa League group in the Champions League and still finish 3rd. It has to be Spurs. I do not believe that this team the way that they're playing in Europe is sustainable for them to go off and get out of the group stage. I just don't think it is.
Well, you see this super chat here. This is from Blaze. It says Spurs was the Southampton was the only Spurs only convincing game so far, and you lot were predicting them for second spot. Very disgraceful for the quality of the Premier League. I didn't predict Spurs coming second. I don't understand where people have got this concept from. They have Antonio Conte, so he makes them a real, genuine, bona fide contender for top four. But Spurs are Spurs. You know, you had Patrick on the show, and he might be calling in later, who keeps telling me that I want to make sure I word this right, but he keeps basically telling me that we can't. You shouldn't. Chelsea doing the right thing. Chelsea like building a good structure, bringing in a top director of football doesn't mean that Chelsea are going to change. Chelsea will be Chelsea. They'll keep sacking too early. They're just throwing money at it. That's all they've got. But at the same time, people like him and Spurs fans like him keep telling us that Spurs are going to change their spots and not be Spursy and throw things away. And if you really see yourself as title contenders, one of the best two teams in England, which is the best league in the world, real genuine title contentions in the Champions League, you don't get beat like that and outclassed like that by Sporting Lisbon, who, by the way, were led tonight by a quote-unquote Spurs reject. Top teams don't do that. What was your take on it, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, I thought early on in the game it was going to be the inevitable Spurs being kind of dominant, having the better play or the better chances, nicking the goal, and Sporting not being able to capitalize on whatever opportunities that they had. So, okay. So, you know, for me, it was just like, okay, go ahead and score the goal and then it's going to be done, right? But as the game wore on, Spurs started to look a lot more restless. They didn't look as confident in what they were trying to do. Son, I think we're going to have a conversation about him, was completely nullified. And then Sporting came into the game a lot more. They started to get better and better chances. And in the first half, they were getting into the box, but not really penetrating or doing anything significant. Second half, they started to test Lloris. Lloris had to make a couple of good saves to keep them out. And so then it started to look like, okay, where's this mentality shift that the Spurs fans have been talking about? After the Chelsea game, we had a mentality shift. We're not Spursy anymore. But we all know you got lucky. And in this game, where you really had the opportunity to show that mentality change, going away from home to a team that you should be beating, you lost the game 2-0. And so Spurs, they didn't look great. And then this is where the question around the playing style comes in. We were talking about this during the game, is that Spurs are not concerned about playing good football. Every single time that, you know, somebody says, well, they don't play good football, I'm like, they're not concerned about it. They brought in 3 really conservative managers, pragmatic managers in a row. Nuno, Jose Mourinho, and Conte all play a certain style of football. So they're not concerned about playing well, you know, but you can only, it's not just about pretty football. It's about possession. Yeah. It's about having good possession and dominating the match. And I do think that Spurs have ridden their luck in most matches, but in this one they got caught. And this is the template.
You know what the most worrying thing as if I was a Spurs fan watching that game, the most worrying thing that for me was most of the chances they did create, most of the chances they did get was not from their beautiful play or good possession, like you said, but it was actually from Sporting making mistakes at the back.
Yeah.
And when it seems like that's the only way your team can create chances, that is an overall red flag for me of saying, no, you actually not good on the ball. You actually can't keep the ball. You actually can't create chances where it's not just counter-attack or like counter-pressing. Like, Spurs are the best team on paper in that group. They can't be relying on mistakes, counter-pressing and counter-attacks to win this group. They have to be on the front foot. They have to be the ones creating the chances. And Sporting, credit to them, they played the better football and deserve to win this game.
Yeah, and again, possession isn't always, on paper, people think the most possession, when you have it around the edge of the opponent's box the most, that's being the most dominant team. But it isn't. The best chances, generally speaking, and you can't make this sweeping statement across all football, but when your team has the best chances in games, you have been the most dominant team, because Sporting's tactic was to do this. Their tactic wasn't to have the most possession, because if they went toe-to-toe and opened up and made themselves easy to break down, with all the quality, with Son and with Kulusevski, and he came on, with Richarlison, with Kane, they're going to rip you apart. You have to play with what you've got, and they did that impeccably well tonight, Sporting, and they really do deserve this. And I think Spurs fans have had a wake-up call tonight. I think too many Spurs fans have got ahead of themselves this season. And the big question mark over Antonio Conte, one of the best league managers in the world, I'm talking the elite end of the spectrum here, one of the worst Champions League managers in the history of the competition. He is awful in this tournament, and he's got a lot to prove, because people say he's one of the best in the world. Well, you've got to do it in this elite competition as well. Now, viewers, we want your thoughts and feelings tonight. It's just a bump in the road, or do you see more of this happening for Tottenham this season? If Harry Kane doesn't score goals, if Richarlison isn't scoring goals, what else are they going to do? Because they're not overly expansive. They don't throw the kitchen sink at trying to win games. They're very, very, very conservative. So unless one or two of their chances go in, are they going to create enough week in, week out, game in, game out to really be successful this year? I want your thoughts and I want your feelings on that. We're going to go to some super chats here. This is Jerome, who is a Spurs fan, says we were dominated the whole time, a week off, and we looked laboured the whole time. Is what Jerome says. To be fair, Tottenham have had it coming for a long time. Fossil football is unsustainable, bruv, is what Lonwabu has got to say there. Bo, sorry, has got to say. Big shame. Even with massive spending by English teams, I don't see any of them winning the Champions League or the Europa League at this moment in time. I would say it's a little bit premature, considering last year no one predicted Real Madrid winning it, and so they probably had the trophy in their hands, to be fair. But there we go. Sporting Lisbon showed that experience in European competitions matter, and they are where the team that showed they have that winning mentality.
They were the team that showed that they had the winning mentality. And the one thing that I will say is we've had this conversation around what do you do to teams that like to play on this counterattacking style, because it is unsustainable. And in the Premier League, everybody wants to play good football. Everybody, top to bottom. So you don't get a Burnley, which I think has been one of the more successful teams against Spurs, like before they went down, playing a low block, and you play on the counter. If you give Spurs the ball, they're not going to be as good. And that's exactly what Sporting did. And I think Red Wolf made a good point, is that European pedigree, that knowing what to do against teams like that, I think they did show their quality. So yeah, teams will be looking at this now. Maybe we just give Spurs the ball. Because I'm sorry, Højbjerg was diabolical on the ball today. He was really, really bad on the ball. And they didn't actually have somebody else that could come in and do better, because I'm telling you, Basuma would not have been better on the ball. Yeah. Give them the ball, and that might be the ticket to beating Spurs.
What's the old adage? Give them enough rope and let them hang themselves. And you saw that tonight, because Conte doesn't play brilliant football. He's a great, pragmatic, park the bus, counter-attack manager. That's what and he does that impeccably well. There's a great counter against that. You sit back against them. And if you're the smaller side, the team that's not expected to win, you'll create problems for them.
And then that comes the question, tactics. Did he need three at the back today? Like, I know that's his thing, and the 3-5-2 or the 3-4-3, that's Conte's thing. But surely the best managers in the world have backup plans, have plans to defeat different teams, right? Like, why did he need to do it? They got outdone by Marcus Edwards, who's one of their former youth players who played excellent today, as a false nine. So it's not like he was going along all three centre-backs and like giving them a hard time and hustling and bustling, and they needed three centre-backs to be solid. They lost it with poor midfield play, where an extra midfielder or an extra attacker gives you that extra bit of potency up front. I don't see why he had to stick to the three at the back.
Well, here's the thing, is that you don't have a plan B, because you have doubles of players that are already in the position. So if you have Højbjerg already, what's the point of bringing in Basuma? Yeah. There's no point, because there's nothing different. We spoke about this in the group chat. We've spoken about this. Spurs could do with a creative midfielder. Mm-hmm. Then you can go for at the back and then play more of a possession style. And really, they need to have three defenders or three center backs, because when you start isolating them one-on-one, they're not as good. Romero is the best defender that they have, but if you isolate Dyer, you isolate Davies, if Sanchez is in, you isolate those players, they're not very good. That's why they need three at the back.
I want to address something really quickly as well. I didn't check this stat. It was just the eye test can lie to everybody. Sporting actually had more of the ball.
Yeah.
I didn't even watching the game. It didn't feel like that, but they had 54.5%. 55%, let's round it up. 55% of the ball, looking at the statistics on the screen over there.
To me, it did feel like that.
Oh, okay.
Because how many times was we cussing Sporting players for doing stupidness on the ball? If you're not cussing them for those mistakes on the ball, that means they don't have the ball. But there's so many times like, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why you made that decision? Because they was on the ball so much. So for Spurs fans who think, oh no, we dominate. You didn't dominate nothing. You guys didn't, like, literally, you guys were that poor and Sporting were that good.
But the difference is they didn't open up. Sporting did not open up. I did not see they stayed in like a mid block. They weren't backed into their own box, but they definitely weren't high enough to get exposed. Mm-hmm. And they had tons of men around the ball. Like, I think there is a difference between, sitting in your own box and giving all the possession away and just being smart. And I think that they were just really, really smart. So even though they had more of the ball and they were doing a lot of little tippy-tappy stuff in between, they didn't get exposed. Yeah. They didn't go too far out.
And a shout out to their goalkeeper as well, because their goalkeeper made some very, very bad. And also, you know what, Hugo Lloris as well. Like, it could have been more if Lloris didn't have he had an actually great game. Like,
no, I completely agree. He did. Viewers, we're going to speak about a few more things in a minute, but I want to give a big shout out to our title sponsors, Tops Kick 23 tonight. Get the app downloaded. Their Champions League 22-23 season cards are very close to being launched. The new fantasy football game they have, we're going to start playing it with you week in, week out once it is launched. So waiting for they can't obviously play it until the new cards are released. But get it downloaded now. Get it done. It's free to play. It's available all around the world. The QR code's on the screen just below me here. There's also a link inside the description as well. So make sure you've got that
Terry,
all signed up.
Talk about Tops.
Yes.
I've got a mystery box on my app. You want to see what card I pull out?
What card you pull out today?
Okay, let me see what card. Okay, I'm going to open it. I'm opening it right now. It's opening right now. Okay, mystery box is opening. I've got a guy from... Oh, I got a Ruben Diaz. Oh, yeah, you see this? Oh, yeah, big up Ruben Diaz. Yeah, I got Ruben Diaz come through. I got Rafa Silva from Benfica. Noah Lang, he was actually linked to Arsenal, Jess, during the summer. For good Bruges. And then also got the biggest money laundering scheme in football, Alvaro Morata as well, with me as well. So yeah, guys, go through, man. Go through. Get your top.
Go check it. And as we say, when the fantasy football game comes out, we're going to be playing that on all of the Champions League match reaction shows between now and the final in May. So you need to have it because I know you're going to want to join in. So get ahead of the game, get in there and get started using it right about now. Now, I wanted to ask Jay, there has to be a conversation about Son because it's been a terrible start to the season. He's one of those players that when he isn't scoring, when he isn't creating, he doesn't do very much. He had another poor game today. Tottenham fans across the planet, across the world are tweeting, Instagramming, on social media posts everywhere. Why is he not being dropped yet? Why is he still starting? Do you think he needs some time out of the team? Does Conte need to stand up now and drop Son?
Well, when you have a joint Golden Boot winner in your team, that was just last season. He had like 23 goals or something. And he was excellent last season. A lot of people felt like he was better than Kane. I do think as a manager, you want to manage that correctly. And probably the best way is to give him enough time to try to turn his form around. And Conte has spoken on it and, said that he believes Son is creating enough chances and getting in the right positions. He's just not finishing off his chances. Today, he was quite poor. Like he really was. Like he was not, he wasn't getting in the right positions and missing opportunities. He wasn't even really getting them because he was just bobbling over the ball. Like he looks like a player that's lost confidence. That's what he looks like to me. Yeah. The manager has backed him, but at the same time, there is a time to move on from a player like this, not indefinitely, but just in the short term. You have Kulusevski, you have Richarlison, two players that are in better form than Son. And I think it's time to maybe let Son sit on the bench and let other players play and see if there's another way to get him to play right. Because sometimes you drop players, you relieve the pressure.
I'll ask you a question, Jess. If this was Marcus Rashford, this performance tonight, what would people be saying?
Oh, drop him.
drop him, sell him, X, Y, and Z. And this is not a thing to be like, oh, Son is as bad as Marcus Rashford was last year. But what I'm saying is like, there's times like Marcus Rashford's performances last season deserved him to be dropped. This is the same situation. I don't think his hump will last as long as Rashford's, but as like you said, as a coach, it's time to drop it. And it's not like last year they've got, oh, who do you have to bring in for Son? We've got X player, this player, they're not good enough. You've now got another backup in Richarlison, which you spend £60 million on.
That's in form as well.
In form, scored 2 goals last week. You play him.
Yeah. And he was their best attacker today. And when Kulusevski came in, he was brighter. He has options, but this was the right thing to do. I think Conte managed this perfectly. You don't just drop him right away. You have almost like, just like we spoke about, you need to give them enough rope to hang themselves so that when Spurs fans are saying, why are you dropping our golden boot winning, striker or winger? He has something to back it up. He can say that I gave him chances and he did not play well. But another thing that we spoke about was, why is this happening? Why now? You won the golden boot last season. Why all of a sudden are you not scoring? Do you think that having new players in there, players like Richarlison and Kulusevski that could potentially take his spot, has maybe potentially rattled his confidence?
Absolutely. And this is the difference between Tottenham when you compare them to Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and to a degree, Man United and Arsenal. There is no expectation of that football club to win anything. There is no most of Tottenham's fans are just happy they're in the Champions League. They don't, in their heart of hearts, they'd love to win it. But if they don't, it'll be, oh, well done, boys. You got to say you did us proud. And that type of mentality at Tottenham is why they're Spursy. And it seeps into the dressing room. Son doesn't have to compete for his place. Son has had no competition for his position at Tottenham since he has been there, essentially. Harry Kane, every time they buy a striker, they don't even get given an opportunity to keep him out of the team. Now, they're not good enough to. They've never signed a striker good enough to keep Kane out permanently, but no one ever really gets a chance. And then what they end up doing is running these players into the ground. Now what we're seeing is Son actually have competition, and he looks like he's a shrinking violet, because it isn't the system, by the way. The football isn't pretty. But Kulusevski looks dangerous in every game he plays in. Richarlison's looking dangerous in every moment he's been on the pitch so far this season. Kane, I think, been pretty good this year. They're not able to shine for 90 minutes, attackers in Tottenham, because they spend 70% of the time defending. But Son looks awful. And people were telling me world-class. He's a world-class finisher at times. But he is like a Marcus Rashford, as you've mentioned, that when he's on form, he's a moments player. Brilliant on the counter, brilliant with on the shoulder of the defenders against a high line. But when the going gets tough, he's not dribbling past people. He's not really creating chances. I think he's got 1 assist all season, no goals so far, and that's 8 games in. And for a player that's world-class, that's not good enough. So whether this is a bad patch, this is him leveling out, whether he's over the hill, I don't really care the reason for it. Conte's now got to step up and be a top-class manager and drop Son from the Tottenham team and give Kulusevski, Richarlison, and Kane a go together, because it isn't working. And I think that the international break's probably coming at the right time for Son. He can go away and regroup. But he's been, for a team that started the season well in terms of results, Tottenham, Son has been abysmal. And I do think it's part of the Spursy culture, this element of, well, we don't have to compete here. We don't have to win at Spurs. So why am I being pushed so hard?
Yeah, I mean, I would expect him to be dropped in the next game, or else I think Spurs fans need to ask questions of Conte at this point. He took him out. Kulusevski looked bright. Richarlison looks like he's chomping at the bit. There's no reason to continue to play Son at this point. He's done the right thing. And, I do think there's, again, like when we start talking about mentality changes, it can't just be off of the back of one game. And I saw, like, Spurs fans were saying that the mentality has changed. I still see something quite similar where when it's time to really perform, they don't do it. And so I would be a little bit worried as a Spurs fan that, like, okay, Sporting, they're not the best. They're not the best team. So where are we going to finish in the group? How do we rebound from that? Is our manager going to make the right decision to get us over the line? You haven't seen a lot of Basuma. Will he drop Højbjerg maybe for Basuma? Maybe switch some things up. I mean, it's not all is lost. It's not doom and gloom, but it is those fine margins that are the difference between, a great team and just a good team.
And if you look at it as well, you play with a front 3 and have 5 attackers. That means they're missing one. So does this also stem back to the transfer window of they actually needed more? I know early on in the transfer window, the Spurs fans were saying we've won it, we've got the best one. But as time went on, you got to see that actually not everything is how it seems. Even Conte is
Well, they were
is
linked
showing,
with attackers.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's showing that actually not everything is what it seems. Because why is Spence not playing instead of Emerson? You know what I mean? Like these are the so we've got to look at Spurs as a whole now as well, not just the manager and the players, but like why are they in this position, and why can't a Son or a Kane be dropped? Because who is actually there?
That's how winning is done though. That is how winning is done as an example. It's about pushing people. You know, we saw Man United recently jump up another level when certain players were dropped. Too many of our players have been able to stay too long in this first team at Manchester United without losing their position. There's no doubt about it. We have a super chat here though that's come through that says, who the hell says that we are only happy with being in the Champions League? What is this nonsense? Every team wants to win it, and saying Spurs fans are not demanding on their team is ridiculous. Jerome, I know you are, because you phone in and you speak, but far too many Tottenham fans that I know are happy to be the bridesmaids. They are happy to be and if they don't win something, the top clubs, a top club can get to a Champions League final and lose and get bantered and their fans are angry. If Spurs get through to the quarterfinals and go out and banter, they'll be, well, you weren't here though. Just happy to do it. We're only Tottenham. We don't spend this. We do this. That's the mentality. For me, I would say 80% of Tottenham fans, they'd like to win, but they don't care as much as a City, as a Liverpool, as a Chelsea, as an Arsenal fan. They don't care as much, my friend. And I think that gives players excuses when things go wrong. People say Spurs are top 4 quality because of Kane and Son, but Son is not performing. Also, their new signings are not playing, and the style of play is awful. I mean, the style of play is awful to watch, isn't it?
It's not nice. It gives me Jose vibes. You know what I mean? Like it's just not nice to watch.
The thing about it though is like, I don't think you mind unless you start losing games. You know, as long as they're winning, you can swallow that. But you start to ask questions when you're watching this dead football week in and week out if you're not winning. And that's the thing about Spurs. This season, they have to win something. They have Conte, they have Kane, they have all these players, something. Whether it's the League Cup or Champions League, they need to win something. And you will look back on it. If they don't win anything, no trophies this season, and they had to watch that dead football, they should be asking huge questions, because at the end of the day, at least if you can watch your team play good football, it's something you can be like, all right, you know.
People think if you play counter-attacking or pragmatically, that it has to be ugly to work. No, it doesn't. Like you can do it well and be exciting. Like I know there's times where Spurs counter-attack really well, but we don't see enough of that, and we don't see enough of them actually on the ball making this happen. I'm not saying you have to play tiki-taka. You have to play 40 passes before you get the most beautiful team goal ever. Nah, you can get a team goal in 10. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I'm just wondering, how does Conte make it better? You know what I mean? How does he make his football better? Not drastically change it. We're not asking you to be Pep, but how do you make it just a bit better?
But they're not. The thing is, Conte's not going to do that, and this is why Conte and Spurs are such an interesting mix. And we need to sort out this focus later, because it's focusing on my microphone, not my face. We need to get the thing to search to the face. But I feel like Conte's never going to play any different. Conte comes in to do one thing and to do one thing only, and that's to win trophies. So,
quickly.
Sorry.
Quickly.
Yeah, and quickly. So there's a lot that's got to happen here. And I think tonight is just a little bit of a wake-up call for Tottenham fans, for them to know that we're not quite there yet. You know, you're not winning the Premier League. You're not winning the Champions League at this moment in time. And there's going to be a number of nights like this where if your team can't quite, what's the word I'm looking for? If they can't quite huff and puff and blow the door down on the counter, they're going to get caught in this way. There's no doubt in my eyes. Someone said to me as well, Terry, Son and Rashford are not on the same level. Listen, the last 3.5 seasons, 3 seasons including, and partly of this one, Rashford has something like 83 goal contributions. Son has about 104. Now, there is a 20 difference, and that difference was made last year predominantly because Rashford had an injury-plagued season. The team were in absolute turmoil. But I almost guarantee you, let's fast forward 2 years from now. We'll keep all those stats for the last 3.5. Let's fast forward 2 years. I bet they'll be on a similar level of goals and assists. That's what those two types of players do. When they're on form, they score and they assist goals. They play off that shoulder. But if they're not doing that, there's very little else that comes from a Son. There's very little else that comes from a Marcus Rashford if they're not scoring and assisting. Now, that doesn't mean they make them bad players. If someone's scoring and assisting a lot of goals for you, they're a massive asset. But when those goals dry up, when those assists dry up, you have to change it. Man United's mistake last year was sticking with Rashford too much when he wasn't performing. Oh, hopefully today the goals will come back. The goals will come back. The goals will come back. You've got Richarlison and Kulusevski that are cooking footballing wise right now. Get them into this team. Be more expansive. But maybe it's the hard work, the running back, the tracking, the defensive work that Conte can't do without when it comes to Son. And if he ain't scoring at the other end of it, he could become a bit more of a hindrance is all that I am saying there.
Yep.
Viewers, we are back live after the 8 p.m. games, Liverpool versus Ajax, and of course the big one, Bayern Munich versus Barcelona. So make sure you're back on the football terrace then at full time, tuning in, giving us your thoughts and your feelings. As I've said, get the app for Tops Kit 23 downloaded at the end of this stream. Link in the description, QR code there. All the games and new cards are coming soon, so make sure you are ahead of the game. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless, and we'll see you all again